I challenge you to a duel.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Movie Duel Podcast. My name is Peter and I am your host. Ordinarily on the Movie Duel Podcast we select a subject that's based around movies, and then myself and my co-host each pick a film that we think best fits that subject. However, this is a very special bonus episode, our first ever quick draw episode. See, normally on the Movie Duel Podcast, I'm joined by one of my core four, the movie duelists, so Vanessa, Tarquin, Jamie, or Nicole. But on these quick draw episodes, I will be joined by special guests, so people who are maybe from the podcasting world or from various different walks of life. And the main idea being that I will put some of the subjects that we've discussed on this podcast to them, let them sort of ruminate on the choices that we made, and ultimately get them to sort of pick what they would have chosen for those subjects. So for this first edition of Quick Draw, I invited back original co-host of this podcast, Liam, in order for him to talk through some of the subjects that he didn't take part in after he left the podcast, and get his suggestions and his picks for those subjects. So before we get into that, just a reminder about how you can get in touch with us here at Movie Duel Podcast. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/Movie Duel Podcast. You can also get in touch with us via Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called at the moment, at Movie Duel Pod, and you can email us at movieduelpodcast@gmail.com. So if you're interested in giving us a subject to potentially discuss in the future, or if you'd even like to be a guest on one of these quick draw episodes, then please get in touch. No matter what you do, whether you're in the podcasting world or not, or you just want to have a go at it, or you just want to get involved, then by all means send us a message and we'll add you to the list. But without further ado, let's head on to the first edition of Quick Draw with Liam.
Always knew someday you'd come walking back through my door. I never doubted that. Something made it inevitable.
Okay, so a very special welcome back to original co-founder of the Movie Duel Podcast, all-round great guy, aspiring filmmaker, and I can honestly say the best lover I've ever had. It's Liam. Hi, Liam.
What an introduction. Thank you, Pete. Thanks. Such kind words.
Yes, yeah. I know we weren't going to tell anyone about that, but
no.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So how are you? How's things?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Things are good. I'm going to start that again. Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Things are good. Work's busy. Life's good. I can't really complain. Yeah. How are you?
Oh, I'm living the dream.
Good. I'm glad to see your.
It seems to be the sort of token response now for anybody who's really not living the dream.
Yeah. That's.
But as far as podcasting goes, I am living the dream.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to see you, going full steam ahead into the podcast and stuff. So,
yeah, loving it.
I'm proud. To quote Freddie, Freddie got fingered. Proud.
But yes, so thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
Obviously, this is a sort of pilot guest episode for the Movie Duel Podcast, a way to sort of get people involved a little bit and maybe get some external guests onto the podcast. So thank you very much for taking part and being a bit of a guinea pig for this.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. I am happy to be your guinea pig.
So obviously moving forward at this point, normally I would ask my guest if a little bit to tell us a little bit about themselves, but obviously we know about you. Everybody who's listened to the Movie Duel Podcast knows your history and you've not got anything to plug or push.
No.
I thought we'd take this opportunity to just talk a little bit about, obviously, really sad news coming from the States this week. The death of, I know, one of your favourite film directors, William Friedkin, who passed away this week at the age of the ripe old age of 87.
Yep.
And I know you perhaps a lot more than me. You've seen a lot more of his films than I have. I've sadly only seen a handful, but he's a director I think a lot of, and those films that I have seen have always been great. But yeah, I know you'd want to say a few words because he's quite an inspiration to you.
Yeah, he is. And it was kind of a bit of a shock, really. I didn't even know, because you text me, we were just having like a back and forth, and you just went, "Oh my God, Billy Friedkin's died," and I was like, "Fuck no!" And I checked it out, and obviously it was true. And yeah, it was kind of a bit of a shock. I mean, it always is a bit weird when somebody famous dies, because you're so used to seeing them, and you feel like they're in your life a little bit, if you know what I mean. So it is kind of a bit of a shock, and I think for me, this is definitely more of a shock because it kind of feels like it's the start. I don't want to be too morbid, but it's like this is when my heroes are starting to go now, because like once we start losing like Friedkin, and you know, I'm not putting any hexes on anybody, but you know, like when Carpenter goes, or Joe Dante, or Spielberg and stuff like that, these people that are like, for me, been really influential in my life. That it's a deeper hurt, and it's really sad, but I think he will be remembered greatly. I mean, I think more people need to watch his movies. Everywhere you look, it's like director of The Exorcist, or director of French Connection and Exorcist, and it's like them two movies. And you can understand why they're saying them two movies, because I guess they are the big movies that kind of made him who he is. But he's so much more than just those two movies, and I guarantee anybody out there who, obviously, people listening to this podcast are into movies, so literally just, if you're bored, go on YouTube, watch Conversations with William Friedkin. There are so many, and he is like literally the most entertaining, interesting person to listen to, because for starters, he does not give a fuck. He says whatever he likes, whether his opinion is right or not. That's what I appreciate about William Friedkin, is that he's honest, he's a true person, and it's really sad when you lose a voice like that. But like you say, you know, he made it to 87, so you know, we got him way longer than, you know. So I'm
and I think
for that.
I think for me, obviously, being a massive fan of The Exorcist, and that's where I've seen, you know, through documentaries and interviews about The Exorcist, that's where I've seen the real life sort of William Friedkin, and he had such a passion for filmmaking, and you know that he loved cinema. And when you hear her talking about his favourite films and things like that, and just the filmmaking process, you know he had a true love for filmmaking. And you know, he's almost in the same way that Spielberg does. He's very, I think I said to you, he's sort of like he's like the psycho version of Spielberg.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think he probably did get a little bit shoehorned after The Exorcist in terms of being the guy who directed The Exorcist. So people didn't necessarily look out for anything, because he didn't do a whole heap of horror after that, did he, really?
No, not really. I mean, he did a movie called The Guardian, which was a horror film, which it's not great, but, you know, it's a William Friedkin movie, and I think it's worth a watch if you're interested in it. But he did a lot of, like, that's the thing about The Exorcist. It is a horror movie, but it's like, I don't want to say it's like a true horror movie. It's like it's cinema, which it is, but you know what I mean. It's not a grindhouse piece of crap. It's art. Like, that is not just one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It is one of the greatest movies ever made. So you know, he's done a lot in his back catalogue, but I think a lot of the stuff, you know, like thrillers or whatever, like, it's the humans that are the horrifying thing, sort of like, you know, when you watch because you watch Killer Joe, and that was definitely, later on in his life, and that was a damn fine movie. Also, if nobody's seen Bug, which is on Prime now, it's on one of those channels where you can watch it with adverts, which I guess is fine. But Bug, that is a fantastic movie. It is disgusting, it's creepy, it's horrible, it's unsettling, it's paranoia inducing. It's a very good film, so I would recommend that.
I mean, I would recommend if you want to see sort of the real life side of William Friedkin. I believe it's still on the BBC iPlayer at the moment. If not, it'll be around Halloween, and it'll probably be on very soon, obviously with his recent passing. But the Fear of God documentary, which I think is 25 years of The Exorcist, made by Mark Kermode, is a fantastic documentary about The Exorcist. But it's just great. All the bits with William Friedkin are just brilliant.
Yeah.
But specifically the relationship he has with William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, and they have this very almost completely different views of what the story is and what it's about, really. But they just made such a great sort of pairing, really, and had so much respect for each other. And he's just it's so much fun to watch him and just watch him talk. Yeah,
they're kind of like an old married couple in a way. Like they love each other, they disagree, but they deep down they love each other, and it's really nice to see that. And it's one of those friendships that I think has stood the test of time. And I'm sure he's up there with old William Peter Blatty, and they're having a good chat. But it's really sad, and but I'm just thankful for all the movies we got. And also, if anybody hasn't seen Sorcerer, you have to see Sorcerer, because I will bang on about this movie. It is literally, if we're going to talk about The Exorcist, The French Connection, Sorcerer, those three films are William Friedkin's masterpiece. So if you've got a way to watch Sorcerer, watch it, because it is absolutely fantastic.
Well, I was going to say, what film would you recommend outside of French Connection and Exorcist? So I guess Sorcerer is going to be that.
Yeah, I would definitely have to say Sorcerer. I mean, Bug is very, very good, and it's got Michael Shannon in it, and his performance is absolutely amazing. It was written by Tracy Letts, and I think it was a stage play, and you can kind of tell because it's all basically set in this like seedy motel room, and it's very uncomfortable, and I don't want to tell you too much about it, but you should definitely watch it. But if I had to pick one that wouldn't be The Exorcist or French Connection, it would definitely be Sorcerer, because it is absolutely amazing. It is chef's kiss. It is beautiful. If you love movies and you're a cinephile, go check out Sorcerer, because it is absolutely incredible.
And I'd throw in a film that you just mentioned there, Killer Joe, which you put me onto, which was it completely shocked me how much I enjoyed that film. And it's McConaughey being pure McConaughey as well, which is always good to see on film. But it's just an absolutely insane film. Really insane film. It was doing the rounds, I think, on one of the streaming channels, but I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But it's amazing film. Yeah,
it is brilliant. It's there's a funny story that I can't remember the girl who's in it. She's a British actress, but she's playing an American, the young girl, and she's really good in it. And they were talking about the naked scenes, and how uncomfortable people were, and William Friedkin just dropped his pants and trousers and be like, "It's fine, we'll all do it." That's just the kind of guy he was. He was like, fuck it, let's do it. So he'll be greatly missed. And brilliant director, brilliant.
Godspeed, William Friedkin.
Yeah, I can't say anything else about him. That's it.
Okay,
I'll tear up.
Yeah. So obviously this episode, like I say, is the sort of pilot for getting people on to talk about some of the movie jewels of past. So the idea is that during these guest episodes, I'll give my guest a certain number of the topics that we've already discussed on the Movie Duel podcast, get their opinion on the choices that we made, and then ask them what they would have picked, whether that's one of the choices that was already discussed on the podcast or something completely different. Okay, so these discussions are going to be non-spoilery, and they're going to be a little bit brief. They're not going to be full discussions about the films, but just to get a flavour of my guests' choices for those episodes. So, are you ready, Liam?
Yeah, I think so. As ready as I'll ever be. I've prepared.
So, obviously we've got to start. I think we'll go chronologically because obviously episode 4 was your last one, which was the childhood trauma, kids' films that scared us, and then you obviously left.
Yeah, I did.
But we're not bitter about that.
I'm sorry. Indiana, let it go.
So we'd actually made a selection for that episode as well. So the next episode, episode 5, which was my choice, was worst video game adaptation. Now, be interested to see in a second whether or not you stick with the original choice, because you did make a choice for that.
Okay.
But see, my very first guest co-host, and as such, was Nicole Davis, who joined me on that episode, and we talked Super Mario Brothers from 1993 and Blood Rain. So Nicole Davis chose Blood Rain from 2004. So first of all, first question to you, Liam: have you seen both of those films?
I've seen Super Mario Brothers. I haven't seen Blood Rain, but I saw the trailer for it years ago, if that's any good. So I kind of know what it's about. But yeah, I don't know a great deal about it.
But you couldn't, I suppose you couldn't then make a judgmental decision on which one you would have picked out of those two, or which choice you would have agreed with.
I don't know. I probably would have picked Blood Rain just because I haven't seen it and it looked bad. I know Super Mario Brothers is not great, but at least it kind of has the charm of Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, so it's not totally awful. I know it's not great. But I do remember the some of the like the practical, is it Yoshi dinosaur, looked kind of cool.
Yeah,
I remember that that being okay for the time.
What would you have picked then?
Well, I know you said that I had picked one, and I'm kind of hoping it's the same as the one that I'd picked now, and that would have been Uwe Boll's House of the Dead.
Ah, yes, it was.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought so, yeah. Even though it's been years since I've seen it, and I can't really remember that much about it, but it did leave a lasting impression as that I know it was shit, and it was awful, and it was boring. Yeah. Thing is, I'm not really a big gamer, so there's not many video game adaptations that I've seen, and the ones that I might have seen, I probably do like, or I find a little bit charming. Like, obviously everyone talks about Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved that when
Have
I
you
was...
seen the latest one in that?
No, I haven't, no.
It's pretty good, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's supposed to be quite violent, isn't it? Or yeah,
it's a bit more akin to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, I watched fucking Mortal Kombat Annihilation the other day. I still enjoyed dipping into that.
Do you know what? I wrote it down underneath House of the Dead, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and that's not because I thought it was terrible. It's because it's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least it has those redeeming factors of that it's so bad it's entertaining. But House of the Dead, I just remember being awful. And I'm sure there was. I don't want to get into libel, but I'm sure there was some sort of dodgy thing with Uwe Boll and some sort of tax. Something like that.
Yes,
with his films.
There is a big he basically
allegedly.
Yeah. I don't think it's even alleged.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole did talk about that in the episode. Okay, so moving on. So next episode is my first episode with Vanessa Cordner, in which we discussed the best Paul Verhoeven movie. Our choices. So Vanessa picked Basic Instinct from 1992, and I went with RoboCop from 1987.
Yeah.
So, who did you agree with on that one?
Well, I've got to give it to you, Pete. I mean, it's hard to deny the brilliance and the amazingness of RoboCop. That's probably what I would have gone with, and I mean, well, it is what I went with. I've got it written down here. But Starship Troopers, honourable mention. I love that film. Watched it a little bit too much when I was a kid, even though it's not a kid's film. No. But yeah, you've got to give it to RoboCop. It's brilliant. You've got all those amazing special effects, Rob Bottin, the cool stop motion stuff. Yeah, the Phil Tippett stuff.
Have you watched Mad God yet?
No, I haven't, because that's on
I got about
Shudder.
10 minutes into it and I couldn't get through it. I was just like, it did me head in a bit.
Yeah, he's on his YouTube channel. He had a couple of there was a little segment from Mad God, but this was years before it was finished or whatever. And I've watched some of them, and then he's got another short on there, which is a mix of stop motion and CGI, which was really good. Creepy as well. But no, I've not watched Mad God. But yeah, I would have gone with you, man, RoboCop, because it's just fucking brilliant. I mean, all the quotable lines, Clarence Boddicker, some great stuff. I don't like cops. Cops don't like.
And they don't like me.
Give the man a hand.
So then moving on to episode 8, which was my first one with Tarquin Mandrake.
Okay.
In which we discussed our choices for best Ron Howard film, with Tarkin's choice of Night Shift from 1982 and Willow from 1988. You're sniffing your fingers. Balls.
No, I ate a pack of crisps and even though I've washed my hands, my fingers still smell like bacon rashers. It's disgusting.
Scampi fries.
Yeah. Can't stop. Yeah, sorry, that's not a good look. Anyway.
Yeah. So best Ron Howard film, Night Shift or Willow?
Do you know what? I haven't seen Night Shift, so I can't comment. Willow, I have a couple of times. I loved that film when I was a kid. I really struggled with this one because I've actually got quite a few written down. I think if you would ask younger Liam, he would say Willow. Maybe Liam now, I was kind of saying Apollo 13.
Okay. See, that's one of those films that's always very high with a lot of people, and it's a very popular film at the time. But it's a film I was never really drawn to. And when I did watch it, I wasn't, really bowled over by it. I didn't really. It didn't float my boat or float in anti-gravity for me.
Well, I mean, I haven't watched it recently. I think it might have been a year or two ago because I think it was on Netflix and I watched it. And I kind of I forgot how good this was. I remember we had it on video when I was a kid. And I actually used to enjoy it as a kid, even though I was into all the fucking, Jurassic Park and all that sort of stuff. I actually enjoyed this movie about people stuck in space. And I like that sort of we have limited amount of time, we have to solve problems and all that sort of stuff. So I do really like that. But also, I kind of forgot about Ransom as well. I know I have to pick one. I really do enjoy Ransom. I love I love Gary Sinise, and I feel like he doesn't get enough respect because he's a really good actor.
He's a good villain. He's a really good villain.
Yeah.
He was good in what's the Palmer film? Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes. Oh, yeah.
With Nick Cage. He's the bad guy in that.
Yeah. I think I'd stick with Apollo 13. Okay. I think.
Well, I think we sort of did discuss in the episode that obviously technically probably Willow's pretty good technically.
Yeah.
But they're probably more our favourite. Very very much subjective choices. Those two, I think. You think in terms of cinema and adult cinema.
Yeah.
He's made some. Frost Nixon was a good film. I really enjoyed that a lot more than I expected to.
Yeah.
And I saw that when I was a lot younger. But yeah, I think he's. But then he's not really a director other than Willow that I've revisited a lot. I can't say that I've seen many of his films more than once.
Yeah. I kind of feel like he's a very good sort of nuts and bolts filmmaker. He knows what he needs to do to get done. I don't want to say safe, but I can understand why they brought him in to do that fucking Solo story to sort of, we need somebody that will say yes to stuff and get things done and actually knows how to put a movie together in some sense. Which is no knock to Ron Howard, because 13 Lives I think came out last year, and I really enjoyed that. That was a really good film. I would recommend that to anybody. It was very entertaining and based on a true story and stuff. So, yeah, he's not one of those sort of filmmakers that stands out to me that has a bit of a punch or anything like that. Nothing that's sort of that's different. He's kind of very safe and is what it is, really. But I think I would go with Apollo 13. I mean, it had a good cast. You got Tom Hanks in there, and I think Gary Sinise was in that as well. So I would go with Apollo 13.
Then we move on to episode 10, which was entitled Failed Nostalgia, or Films That We Used to Love But Have Seen Recently and Realised That They're Not Quite So Good. I was joined by Nicole on this one, in which we discussed Face Off from 1997, which was her choice, and Batman Forever, which was mine in 1995.
Do you know what? Neither, and I'm going to go with the thing that that first popped into my head, and I'm going to get hate for this, I know I am, but I don't care, and it's Beetlejuice.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to line you up next to Tarquin for controversial choices.
Easy, Tiger. Yeah, I used to love Beetlejuice when I was a kid, and it's one of those ones that I've watched when I was a bit older, and I like the production design, and it's very unique. It's very Tim Burton, but I don't like anything else about it. Like I don't know. I think when I was a kid, I enjoyed the quirkiness and all that sort of stuff, and now that I'm older, it's not one of those Tim Burton movies that I would go back to. It's just I don't know. There's something about it like I don't like that quirky goth, everybody moody. I feel like I've grown out of that, and it's fine if you like it. It's each to their own. But
it has some really great parts in it. I mean, I've never been massively, a massive fan of Beetlejuice. I think it's good.
Yeah.
But it just seemed I couldn't tell you the runtime off the top of my head, but it just feels a lot longer than it should.
Yeah.
As well, it's there's bits of it that really sort of drag, and it's quite painful, obviously, watching any film with that guy who's been convicted for various felonies relating to
noncery. Yes.
Not very nice.
Yes.
Noncery.
Yeah,
yes.
That's probably the.
But then I think it's Tim Burton's almost been soured by his later years. I think hasn't he as well, and it was really probably his. Well, I would probably say it's his last original film. I know it was one of his first, but I think everything else was pretty much based on something, wasn't it? It didn't do much.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about
his hands, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm not like obviously a huge fan. I don't know his filmography off the top of my head, but we've talked before. But my favourite is Ed Wood. I love that. But that's just because I've grown as a person. So if you would have shown me Ed Wood when I was 8, I would have it's boring. I would have liked Beetlejuice, but it's just it doesn't do anything for me now. It's not. I have that nostalgia of when I was a kid with my family, because I've got a lot of sisters, and we would always do the day, that song. We would always sing that, and that whenever that comes on, it reminds me of my sisters. So that's that's kind of nice, but. I mean, it's not a terrible film. I don't want to knock it, because the production design is great, and Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin.
God bless him.
I was trying my best not to do a gun joke there, but I think the performances are great, and it's got this weird premise that this weird woman comes in who has terrible art, and they're gonna redesign this house. They have a dining area outside that has no roof. And it's quirky. It's Tim Burton, but it's just not for me. It's just not for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was it.
Okay. Right. Well, we've. I think we'll take a short break here, and just regroup.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in a second.
I'll be right back.
So, welcome to the intermission. So this is the part of the episode where I ask my guest a random question, a question they've not prepared for, and get their honest first answer. So, Liam, are you ready?
Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so slightly away from actual films, but a bit more about cinema experience. What is your go-to snack for the cinema?
Ooh, okay.
What's your preference? If you're not playing Odeon prices,
Yeah.
what would you go for? Money's no object.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to include the drink because I always have a drink when I go to the cinema. I'll either have... I'm kind of a bit weird. If I sort of go in the morning or the daytime, I'll have like a big coffee. And then in like late afternoon, in the evening, I'll...
Big cup of Joe.
Yeah. I'll have like a Pepsi Max or whatever. Zero sugar for me.
Sensible.
Yep. Did you know what? I think my probably go-to is minstrels.
Ah, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody's listening in America, it's not the racist dancing group. It is literally the Galaxy Chocolate. They're like these big, delicious Smarties that...
Chocolatey with the nutty shell.
Yes. Yeah. They're my go-to, I would say. Minstrels. And you can get them in a really big bag that's like, well, it's probably even more at the cinema. It's probably like £7, but it's like a sharer bag, but I don't fucking share them bad boys. Yeah. I'll sit and munch them.
See, quite recently, I've gone, the last few times if I've gone, because I'm getting a bit older now and have a few more sort of bit of free time in the day sometimes, so I go to take myself off to the cinema, and I go for the Haribo Tang Fastic, just to keep myself nice and alert for the film.
Yeah, I do like a sour sweet. Sweet. Does
fizzy cherries.
Does anybody actually have popcorn? Because when I go to the cinema, I love people watching, and it's very rarely I see anybody that has one of those big tubs of popcorn.
I don't know. I think it's sort of, I don't know. It's a lot of hard work in it, popcorn.
Yeah.
You've got to spend the next sort of hour picking out your teeth.
Yeah, it's not an enjoyable snack for me.
No.
You can feel it running around your teeth. It's horrible.
I prefer that. I like the Butterkist.
Are you going to say toffee?
No, you can get the salt and sweet mix, which is like a real proper mix of the salt and sweet. If you ask for it mixed at the cinema, it's just like a layer of salt, a layer of sweet, a layer of salt, and that's you don't get the full effect. You don't get the salt. It's like salted caramel kind of that kind of flavour. You don't quite get the full thing. But other popcorn varieties are available.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if you have any people that listen in America or whatever, but do they have like a big fucking pump and they just pour hot liquid butter on popcorn? Is that?
I shall ask Nicole next time I speak.
Yeah,
next time we do an episode.
I really want to know because like I've never seen that anywhere because obviously I never have popcorn, so I don't know if in the UK we have a big liquid butter dispenser. But
well, like at the fucking Odeon, they have fucking nachos and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Get a grip.
Yeah. Oh, also, actually, I've started having Tango Ice Blasts, and I have a mix. They're very nice. I do quite like them. I am a big kid, really. I am a big kid. Yeah. Yeah. It's.
See, that's why I like going to Cinema in the Woods because they have an intermission. You can get an ice cream halfway through. Brilliant.
That's good.
Like a proper kid.
There's a well, it's actually a chain in the UK. Everyman Cinema.
Yes.
They're really good. They sort of have like, it's for the more civilized human being, shall we say. So you can have a beer and you can have a meal and they'll bring you the food before the performance and you can have like, a fresh burger and a hot dog with, deep fried onions and all this sort of stuff. It's really nice food. That's kind of nice.
Would that be the cinema that we keep saying we're going to go to and we never do?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, that would be true.
So if anyone from Everyman is listening and wants to give us free tickets and a free meal...
Yes, please.
If we can spread the word through social media on Twitter at Movie Duel Pod, let's make it happen, people. Thank you.
Yeah, come on. I mean, Pete probably won't, but I will prepare to suck an employee off from Everyman to get us. Yeah. To get us. I'll do it. Yeah. So send it out there. Hashtag willing to suck.
You do it for a Tango Ice Blast.
I fucking was. That stuff's like my crack. I'm like scratching, like, oh, yeah, just this cherry, the cherry.
Yeah. And a bit of apple on top.
Yeah. They are really good though. They are really. I'm not.
Oh,
Yeah, they're good.
that's staying in. That's comedy gold. Okay, so let's call that the end of the intermission. I think people are coming back in with their Tango Ice Blasts and freshly relieved from whatever you've done to them.
Got some free tickets, baby.
Let's head back to the main podcast. Okay, so let's pick up with episode 11, which was in which I was rejoined by Tarquin, and we discussed our choices for best outlaw biker movie.
Okay.
So my choice, Mad Max 1979, and Tarquin's choice of Psychomania, aka The Death Wheelers, from 1973. I know you've seen Mad Max, but about Psychomania, Death Wheelers, have you seen that?
No, I think you texted me about that and said that I should watch it. Yeah, is it? Is it streaming anywhere?
It's on. It's one of these free video on demand things. I think it's Tubi.
Right,
I think you can find it, but it's on YouTube as well.
Right,
but fucking hell, you definitely like it. I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It'll be up your street.
And it's British, isn't it?
It's so British.
Yeah.
It's one of the most British. If there's such a thing as Britsploitation from the 70s, it's fucking amazing. Okay. You'd love it.
Is it filmed up north? Please tell me it's filmed up north.
No, no.
Okay.
No.
That'd have been good.
It's got the most British sort of outlaw biker gang ever. It's brilliant.
Okay.
You'd love it.
All right, okay. It's got my interest now. Okay.
But what would you have gone for?
Well, I would have gone with Mad Max, but I texted you the other day because I said it's got to be a biker movie. Is push bikes okay? And you said, yeah, sounds fine. So I've actually gone with Turbo Kid.
Oh, right, okay. Never heard of it.
Okay, well, it's brilliant. It's. Do you remember that movie when we were at work and we were doing the I pick one, you pick one, we watched that sort of stuff? Yeah, and my pick was Summer of '84.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
great film.
Yeah, it's the same people that made that. I think it was their first film. I think there's like a trio of them. There's like 3 people that are directing.
Right.
Yeah, and their first feature film was Turbo Kid. And after you've done this, or whenever you want, go on YouTube, watch the trailer for Turbo Kid, and I'll tell you what, you'll want to watch the film because it is crazy. It's really low budget, but it's basically set in the apocalypse, and everybody rides around on BMXs.
Right, okay.
And Michael Ironside is like the main bad guy. And it's basically this kid. He's a bit of a loner and a bit of a scaredy cat, but he befriends this girl, and he falls in love with her, and stuff happens. But his favorite superhero is Turbo Man or Turbo Guy or something like that. But he becomes Turbo Kid, and it's super ultra violent schlock. And it's like influenced by the 90s and 80s, and it's just great. It's got an awesome synthwave like fucking soundtrack, and for such a low budget film, it's actually really fun. If anybody wants to watch the trailer, go on YouTube and just watch Turbo Kid. It's brilliant. It is so funny. There's some absolutely disgusting gore in it, but like funny, played for laughs. It's really, really good.
Okay.
So I had to go with that.
Sounds a bit like Psycho Gorman.
Yeah,
is it of that sort of ilk?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's probably more fun because I like Psycho Gorman. I just don't like the little girl, the main protagonist in that. I find her quite annoying. But actually, Turbo Kid's actually quite sweet. Really, it's kind of more about the love story, and as you're watching it, you're thinking, "Oh, this is stupid," but by the end, you're like, "Oh my god, this is actually quite sad." it's a really good film, honestly. Watch the trailer; okay. It's so fucking funny. It's brilliant.
Okay, so then we moved on to episode 12, which was the first time I had Jamie Russell on the podcast, in which we discussed our choices for best Bond film was quite a big one. This one, a lot to choose from. So Jamie went for The Spy Who Loved Me from 1977, and I went for GoldenEye 1995. So if I was a betting man, I would say you wouldn't go for either of those films.
Pete,
would I be right?
You would be right, yes. Pete knows me well.
So first of all, I would say, which would you prefer out of those two?
If it was me, it would be GoldenEye. Because the Brosnan Bonds started off strong, and they just sort of went too campy and too stupid.
Went for shit.
Yeah, they did. the first few were good, and then after that, they were pretty terrible. I mean, I'm not like a huge James Bond fan. I know you're a Bond guy, so this is where Pete will put in clips of Alan Partridge talking about Bond. Stop getting Bond wrong.
I've stopped putting clips in now.
Oh, right, okay.
Saves time.
All right.
But I'll put one in there for you.
Thank you.
No, stop getting Bond wrong!
Sorry.
So what would you have gone for?
I really struggled because I got two and I couldn't decide really. My first initial response or whatever was Casino Royale, and I know you might not like that, but it's Casino Royale.
Jamie very nearly went for Casino Royale.
Yeah, it's just, like I say, I'm not a huge Bond guy, but what I like about Casino Royale, it was probably like the first James Bond movie that kind of veered away from being the typical Bond. Like, he wasn't James Bond. By the end of the movie, he was James Bond, and I liked that growth and that story. It was really interesting. And I know I can't remember his name, but the guy directed it was the guy who did GoldenEye, wasn't it?
Martin Campbell.
Yeah. So he did a really good job. But I think he also directed Green Lantern, so, you can't get everything right. But yeah, I had Casino Royale, and I also had Goldfinger, just because my Bond is Connery, really. So, but I think if you had to,
Good old racist Bond.
it was the fucking 60s, 70s. You can't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's over time, isn't it? It's it's not great, but I do love Connery. But I think, like I say, I'll go Casino Royale just because I think it's the more mature one, and for me it's the one that I would probably go back to and rewatch. I think I watched it last year. Yeah, and I do enjoy Mads Mikkelsen in that. He's a really great villain. I know Daniel Craig's not everybody's favourite Bond, but I thought he did a really good job of like humanising him, and so I've gone with Casino Royale.
Okay. And then moving on, Vanessa rejoined me for our choices of the worst horror remake. Very popular episode, this one. We went for Vanessa's choice, which was The Wicker Man from 2006, and my choice, which was Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. I feel it's important to distinguish that it's Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yes.
So, first of all, would you have picked either of those two?
Yes, I would. I think you know which one I've picked.
Well, I don't know. This could be good. I know you're a big JC fan, so if I was a betting man, I would say Halloween.
Yeah, and you would be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As terrible as The Wicker Man is, and we both love the original. It's like a great British folk horror. It's one of the best. I think if it was a different actor, it would be terrible. But because we've got Nick Cage doing stupid stuff, it's kind of so bad it's funny.
But it is bad. I mean, we talked about it in the episode, but the version on fucking Amazon Prime is obviously the theatrical cut, which doesn't even have the bees.
Yeah.
And it has some weird epilogue with James Franco.
Yeah, you told me about that, which I haven't seen. I've only seen the one version.
Bizarre. It's bizarre. It's even worse. You know, what must have been either the uncut version or the director's cut or the fucking, scraped off the bottom of a barrel of shit version that they released on DVD. It's just not the same.
No.
At all. It's not even remotely, paradoxically funny. It's just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember Love Film? I think this was one of the ones that I got through Love Film back in the day when you get DVDs sent to your house. So I've only watched it the once, and I guess it does a good thing in the way that, like, you know, the original Wicker Man, when the copper gets to the island and he feels like he's getting toyed around and he doesn't know what's going on. That's kind of how I felt when I watched the Wicker Man. I was like, what the fuck is going on? 'Cause this is terrible. It's really annoying me. But Nick Cage made it a little bit funny. I mean, everybody's seen the Not the Bees and all that shit. And but let's get to Rob Zombie's Halloween, because that is... I'm going to swear a lot, but it is a terrible piece of shit. It is a crime against John Carpenter. The man has no talent. He's a hack. Anybody who likes this film is also terrible. It is one of the worst things, maybe one of the worst things put to celluloid. It's offensive. It's disgusting. It totally ruins Michael Myers, because one of the great things about Michael Myers is that he's the shape, he's the boogeyman, he's the, you know, he's the thing in the shadows. So what do? We'll explain everything about him. And also he seems to have been working out while he's been in the mental institute. He's this great big burly guy. It's just stupid. Obviously I was joking right at the start. You know, if you like this film, you like this film, it's fine. But it's just not for me. I'm not a fan of Rob Zombie. I'm glad that he gets to make the films that he wants to make. Go for it. But he hasn't got my attention. It's nothing that I like. He's just... it's like he's being gross for the sake of being gross. It's like... Yeah, I just remember... I only watched it the once, and I just remember the dialogue. Everybody was swearing and being really horrible and just vulgar and disgusting, and... It's just, I didn't like it. I just did not like it. And I mean, I've watched interviews with John Carpenter saying about, you know, he wished Rob the best and do with it what you want, sort of thing. You know, don't come to me, whatever. You know, do your own thing, make it you. And he did that. I don't like it, but, you know, it's just, we've had far too many Halloween movies now. Just enough is enough. And
well, it didn't need that, did it? It doesn't need it. The beauty of Michael Myers character, especially in that first John Carpenter film, is that there was no backstory. There's no reason that this kid is doing the things he's doing, and then you're giving him reason, and yeah, it's just schlock for the sake of it.
Yeah, it's just
although one positive, I don't know whether you'd agree, but I think once he's stopped titting about with masks that he's made, and he's fully Michael Myers with the Shatner mask on and stuff like that, he's probably the best looking Michael Myers. Most imposing, I think.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, the look that they had in the later ones, you know, the ones that we've just got finished with like the aged mask and stuff. I feel like the aged mask was a little bit too far. Like, if you had a real rubber mask for like 40 years, it wouldn't look like that. But I know this is a movie or whatever. But I felt like they did a good job with that. And also, from what I seem to remember, because it's been a long time since I've seen that film, I just remember there was this great big chunk of it through the start or whatever, where we're learning about this kid who grows up to be Michael and whatever. And then near the end, it was literally just near enough a shot for shot. Yeah. And
it's a 2-hour film. The first just over an hour is the backstory of Michael. And then the last hour is near enough a shot-for-shot remake of the original film. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But don't get me started again.
No, it's But do you know what? Not to do with Rob Zombie, but I am still kind of interested in watching. What was the last Halloween that we just had? Was it Halloween Ends?
Ends. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of still interested in watching that.
I will still stand by it. I've said this to you before on the podcast. You should watch them all, because I think there's bits in Kills that you would enjoy, and the callbacks and things like that. Kills and Ends both have really interesting concepts to them, but they're not pulled off well enough.
Yeah,
and that's the major problem with those last two, because the first one's fine.
Yeah,
for what it is, but yeah, I would recommend watching them because they are interesting to watch.
Yeah. I know
and you can have a drinking game with how many times people say "Evil dies tonight."
Yeah,
as well.
I've seen the compilations on YouTube where it's just like 10 minutes long of like "Evil dies tonight," and I'm like, oh yeah, but I kind of know a little bit about those two movies, so like it's been spoiled for me a little bit, but that's what makes me kind of a bit interested in the last one, because they kind of started to go in a different direction. Like, it's not really about Michael Myers sort of thing, it's kind of about Haddonfield, or like how people deal with, evil and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, yeah, Rob Zombie's Halloween is the worst horror remake for me.
Okay, so then Nicole joined me again. This was our inaugural random movie subject selector episode, which spat out for us the worst sci-fi film of the 2010s, in which we discussed Nicole's choice of Geostorm from 2017 and my choice of Independence Day Resurgence from 2016.
Okay.
I'd almost, if I'm going to be a betting man again, you've seen neither of these films.
You are kind of right. I've seen some of Independence Day too, but that's just because I can't remember if a friend of mine was watching it and I caught a bit, and I also saw a bit on YouTube because I wanted to watch the like the finale. So I watched a bit on YouTube just because I kind of like the alien designs from Independence Day, the first Independence Day anyway. I'm a big creature head, so like I like creature design. Even though nowadays it's mostly CGI or whatever. So I watched some of the bits for the creatures design. But yeah, you're kind of right. I haven't seen either of those films.
So what would you have gone for then?
Well, I'll have to be totally honest, because 10 minutes before we started this, I kind of told you that I was an idiot and I read it wrong, because I read it as 2010. So I looked through all the sci-fi movies that came out in 2010. And my pick for that was Predators. But then I double-checked with you that it's just the whole of the 2010s. So I changed it. And we might get another rant like we had with the Rob Zombie one. And I went with The Last Jedi.
Jeez. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Well, one of my considerations for that episode was Rise of Skywalker. And I would, on my first viewing of Last Jedi, I would have agreed with you. But I've watched it again since, and I actually think it's the better of the last three.
Okay, interesting.
I think it was done a massive disservice from Rise of Skywalker. It went in a certain... I think had Rise of Skywalker kept that trajectory of The Last Jedi and not just shit all over it, it would have been regarded as a better film than it is. On a second viewing of The Last Jedi, I thought it was a lot better. I think they still messed too much with the Luke Skywalker character.
Yeah.
And they played it for laughs far too much. But I actually really enjoyed the arcs in that film, and it was just a shame that they lost the bottle and didn't follow it through in the last one. Yeah.
I'll kind of agree with you on some of that. I think there's quite a lot to say about this film. When I watched Force Awakens, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good soft reboot. Obviously, there was some.
It was safe. It was very safe.
It was very safe. But I could kind of understand why they did that, because, I mean, we'll get into Star Wars. The kind of way Star Wars has gone now, people kind of wanted that feeling of, the original. Whether that's what they should have got or not, I don't know. But you kind of you ease them in nicely with this little soft, safe thing, and then you start going in different directions. But what the problem I had with The Last Jedi is that those directions were sort of fine, but it felt like it was getting too silly for me. You were sort of throwing away things that made Star Wars. That's the kind of thing with Star Wars, is it's like, once you start going too far, is it going to be off-putting for some people? I do respect that they tried to do something different, but I think they just went too far. And for the laughs, it's one of the most weird cinema experiences I think I've ever had in my life, because I'd never been. Oh, to be honest, that's my own expectations, and it's not the film's fault that I had certain expectations. But when you're sat there, you're thinking, I hope I'm going to get entertained, and I hope I get answers to questions, or I hope I'm excited for this journey that I'm going to go on. And by the end of the film, I did not care. I was done. I was like, fuck this film. I don't like this. This is stupid. It's going in circles. The thing, when you have a start and an end, you shouldn't end exactly where you are at the start. Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like there was no progression.
Okay.
If I can kind of explain that, it's just sort of like they were still being chased and they're all going to die by the First Order, and that's exactly how they were right at the beginning. There was no sort of like, well, where are these characters going to go now? I don't want to be one of those horrible nerds that's, hates women or, hates fucking stuff. I don't care about that shit. There's all that stuff that goes on nowadays, whatever. I'm not bothered. But I was one of the kids that really loved Star Wars, and I really loved Luke Skywalker, and I kind of felt like there was no good handling of Luke Skywalker. And I mean, there's stuff out there where Mark Hamill has said, I wasn't happy with the direction, but it's not my film. I follow the director or whatever, and it went that way. And it was
sure he was paid handsomely.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But it's just when you have this action hero, this who sees the good in everybody and he's drinking tit milk from a space walrus, and he's looking like, yeah, this is good shit. And I'm just sort of like, I don't know. It's just, a lot of people have said like, oh yeah, The Last Jedi is bad, but I feel like Rise of Skywalker is worse. Yeah, but the thing that I would say to that is that, like, okay, Force Awakens was a nice, comfortable car. It wasn't the best car, but it was a nice, comfortable car that would get you to your destination. But The Last Jedi was a horrible car crash. Your best friend was killed, but you survived. And Rise of Skywalker was you're walking away from the wreck and you get punched in the face. The damage was already done. Whatever Rise of Skywalker was, it was irreversibly damaged from my thinking. And I can't believe that there was nobody that decided that we're going to start this trilogy and have an end goal. They literally had said that we were sort of making it up as we were going along, which is crazy.
That J.J. Abrams, he's the man who made Lost, and that's prime example of not knowing where you're going.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll leave it at titty milk.
Yeah. So, but I'm over Star Wars. That it happened years ago. I just got tricked into it again, and then fool me once, fool me twice, sort of thing. So
there's an old saying in Tennessee. I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again."
Yeah.
So then, what could be equally controversial was episode 15, which was almost, it got a lot of feedback on the socials. Episode 15, worst prequel ever made, which was with Tarquin again. This was so my choice, Exorcist: The Beginning from 2004. And Tarquin's choice of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1983. Again, I'm putting all my chips on the counter here, but I'm guessing you're gonna side with me on this one.
Well, I wouldn't have picked Temple of Doom, but I do have another one that isn't Exorcist: The Beginning. But I haven't seen Exorcist: The Beginning because I don't really care for the rest of them, apart from Exorcist 3, which we both love. And after that, the previous one, I feel bad doing this one now, but my worst prequel was The Phantom Menace.
You see, I considered some of the Star Wars prequels, but I don't mind The Phantom Menace. It has a lot of problems, definitely, and it's you can see that. A lot of things were stylistically designed to be that way.
Yeah, I may have gone too far in a few places,
but it's quite enjoyable. Attack of the Clones, I think, yes, definitely you could throw that. As being that fucking awful.
I think that is the worst of the three, and I should have really picked that, but I think the Phantom Menace left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and I was a bit. So I was a bit cautious of what was going to come next, and then obviously we got what we got.
I mean, I even at 1999, I would have been 15.
Yeah,
I think, and I still recognise that this wasn't a great start to the next era of Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was a little bit younger than that, and I enjoyed the stuff that kids would enjoy, which would be the space battles and the lightsaber fights. But I just remember everything else was not interesting, and obviously, the more you watch it and the older you get, you realise that it's even worse. So, yeah, it was. I guess that was maybe the first cinema disappointment when I was a kid.
Okay.
I think I was sort of like, this wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be, because I remember cutting out things from the newspaper, and you'd get they did a Star Wars.
Nerd.
Yeah, no, I fucking was. I like that shit. So I had all the little advertising things in the newspaper, and you'd see the ships and the creature designs. And do you know what? Granted, out of all those 3 films, I guess The Phantom Menace might be the best one as well, because it probably had the most practical stuff in it. There was actually full-blown sets, exteriors, and I think obviously Attack of the Clones or whatever, he started going into the green screen a bit more, or blue screen, I think it was, when he was doing them. So everything was just, completely done on a computer. So at least actually there was practical creature effects and, props and, real things that the actors could physically touch and get in and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's... I struggle to think of any other prequels that I probably hate as much as that one.
Okay.
So, yeah. But, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so...
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm sick of Star Wars now. I'm done.
Oh, you need to watch Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's good.
I keep hearing that that Andor's good, and I like the look of it.
Yeah,
it looks
I haven't
interesting.
watched that yet.
Yeah. So
thank you very much for being the litmus paper for this hopefully continuing saga within the Movie Duel world. And yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome, my friend. I'm happy to help you out whenever I can. And any chance we get to talk about films is good. So yeah, I'm happy to help you, mate. We usually just text about films, like what we've watched or what we've seen. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure we've got this routine of we did the mid-year review, so I'm hoping you'll join me for the end of year review. At the end of 2023. I mean, I've already seen some very interesting films from this year, so I'll definitely be up for talking about those. So
me too. I have been prepping.
Keep your peepers peeled for that coming towards the end of the year. And that about wraps us up. So thank you again for joining me, Liam. It just leaves me to say goodbye, and for Liam to say...
I just wanted to end this with a quote from William Friedkin. And it is... I don't give a flying fuck into a rolling donut about what Al Pacino thinks.